All right. So we have difficult difficult patients, and these are the examples of difficult patients. And in our consultation, what we used to do is we need to recognize which kind of patient do we have and how are we going to manage it. Okay, let me share it with the presentation. Can you see the slide here, right?
Yes, doctor, I can see it.
Okay, just a minute. All right. So dealing with a difficult patient, why it is important? First of all, 15% of the clinical interactions with the patients are perceived as difficult by the doctor. So difficulty in terms of doctor perception. Okay. Um, and how should we go about it? Same, improving the physician's communication can lead to increased patient satisfaction. So the key is here, if you communicate well or if you communicate constructively. Communication, by the way, it's not just speaking, it's the whole out of it. It's the whole package deal. So improving the physician's communication can lead to increased patient satisfaction. So patient is going to be satisfied. Increased healthcare professional satisfaction. So as a physician, you will also be satisfied. Number third thing is improved patient health outcomes. So if you deal the patient in a good way, it will increase your satisfaction. It will increase the patient satisfaction, and also it will also affect the health outcomes. So you should know that okay, the health outcomes are getting better, and also it decreases the complaints and the lawsuits. So it is quite beneficial if you know that how are you going to address these problems. The third thing is understanding the patient's agenda, expectations, improves the compliance and follow through. So when the patient is coming to you, he must have some hidden agendas into it. And when you know the type of the patient, you will know that what is his agenda, and so that you can meet the expectations, which will actually increase the compliance and the follow through process. So it's very important to know what kind of difficult situations or what kind of difficult patients you have, so that you can there are practical tips attached to it. So we meet the difficult difficult patients, as you said. Let's see differently. Okay, this is a demanding or unreasonable patients, or patients with very high IQ, high IQ. We discussed, we mentioned about low IQ patients or uneducated patients, or patients which are high IQ patients. What are these patients? High IQ patients. How do they look like? Yani, how can you sense that this is a high IQ patient or is a demanding or
Educated,
unreasonable patient? Yeah.
educated, well-oriented in time-based and person, and yeah,
Yeah. By the way, being educated and being aware of the time, person, and the situation, it's actually a good thing. Yani, I am educated person, or you are an educated person. Mashallah, you are guys are in final years. So, will you consider yourself as a demanding patient or patient with high IQs?
doctor, we could be having medical student syndrome. So yeah.
Medical student syndrome. Okay. You know what? It's an age of internet, and no matter you are a healthcare professional or not, if anything you are experiencing, you go on a Google and you can find out what are the symptoms, what are the management, what is going on with you. So it's a kind of a Google oriented person or a Google predominant person. Anything a patient is having, he goes into the internet and search it out, and there are a lot of other things. Okay, doctor, I thought that decreased appetite is related to malignancy, so am I being malignant, and things like that. So patient who does not have a bit of understanding, but has not a complete understanding, but has a bit of understanding of everything, that makes it very difficult for us as a physician to cope up with that. Why it is important? The challenge is the lack of experience. The patient is, if the patient is not a healthcare professional, so he probably may not know the whole of it, the normal context of it. So maybe some unrealistic problems or unrealistic thinking process going on with the patient. Lack of background to the patient's demand. The challenge is that if as a healthcare physician, you don't know how to deal with those kind of patients, it's going to be different. Um, Conflicting messages from other healthcare professionals. So patient can say that, okay, doctor, you are saying this, but the other doctor I went last week, he was saying some other thing, or you are saying that, but the other doctors who I came across is saying that, or I read it in the Google, it is written like this. So things like that, it's a very challenging thing, and you cannot just say that, okay, because I'm saying so, I'm a healthcare professional, you should you should listen to that. So you need to be very careful about that. Just a minute, hold on. Okay, so how are you going to deal these patients? As a, if you know that the patient knows actually a lot more than it is required for the patient to know that, you can give the patient the same approach. You can't just say that, okay, because I'm saying so, so you need to follow this. You can give them guidelines, you can give them resources to read up by themselves, so that he's aware that, okay, now the doctor knows better, and he's guiding us in a better position. So what to do? You need to document everything. As a consultation, as a practical tip, whatever conversation is going on between you and your patient, you need to document everything. You can take some senior support as a second opinion, and please avoid maybes. I think that as a healthcare physician, if you say maybe, then probably it would be difficult for the patient to follow this up, because he says that, okay, he thinks that even the physician doesn't know. And rationale, give rationale to everything. I'm giving you this because my diagnosis is like this medication is for this problem, this medication is for this problem. So explain why for and not for. So you should not do this because it will impact in this way, you should do this because it will impact this way. And avoid personalizing conversation. So you don't need to do some personalized attack. You can say some general principles and opinions. So document everything, proof everything to the patient that I'm saying this because the evidence says that. So in a technical way, you should manage this high IQ patients. So what not to do? Don't respond to unreasonable demands. Or the patient is saying that, okay, doctor, I need I can't unreasonable responses could be that I need medications for 2 months, or I don't want this antibiotic, I want this antibiotic which is not appropriate. So obviously you're not going to follow that up. But at the same time, don't argue with the patient, and also don't lie, and don't offer temporary measures. These kind of patients are looking for long-term measures, evidence-based measures. So don't offer them just temporary things, and don't put yourself in danger. So you need to be very careful about that. So dealing with unreasonable patients. Okay. Now this is a, how does the, what is the, is it a low IQ patient or a high IQ patient? How does it look like? How does this patient look like?
Low IQ.
Low IQ. Okay. All right. So patients with very low IQ, obviously the challenge is that if you don't know the patient's IQ, you should, if this patient, you give them the resources and the evidences, it's not going to work. You need to change your strategy for these patients. What are the challenges? Probably aggression or a paranoid or multiple medical problems, which needs your attention, but the patient is not aware. So it's such a challenge at your end. Reliance of history from the relatives. So the patient does not know how to explain his or her symptoms. So you need to rely the history of the caregiver, and the history that the caregiver is giving is not obviously as reliable as the patient is giving you. There are lots of social problems, increasing alcohols and drugs, and some social taboos attached to it. So there are a lot of challenges into it. So what to do? You should maintain a safe environment. You should have a chaperone with you. You should have less distractions in the environment, and an excellent communication skills and patience. So in order to deal with the low IQ patient, first of all, you need to diagnose which category of the patient is it. If it's a low IQ patient, you may want it to tailor your consultation format in a way that is very simple, understandable, and less destructive to the patient. So there are no distractions, and to the point and precise information. Maybe you can split your consultations into 2, 3, 4 slots, and then you can ask the patient, okay, now we are dealing with this problem. Once we deal with this, we will again take and do the deal with this problem, the second problem, and the third problems. So this is, you go step by step process while you're approaching a patient with a low IQ. Here, you don't need a lot of evidences, a lot of guidelines, lot of resources. You don't know that. You don't need that in this patient. If you are giving this to to low IQ patient, you are going to actually wasting your resources. What not to do? Obviously, don't ignore the physical health. The patient is low IQ, so I don't take things very seriously. That's not a that's not a good approach. And don't rush the consultation. So the patient doesn't understand much. So why do we need to waste the resources? Just get over with the prescribing the medications and take the next patient. So that is also not a very good approach. So approaching a patient with very low IQ, you need to be very careful how you need to approach that. Okay. Now this patient is a, what do you think this patient, how do you categorize this patient?
Low IQ patient.
Low IQ,
Criminal.
terminal.
Okay.
Yeah, terminal, maybe terminal ill patient, or what do you see? We see he's a geriatric patient. Maybe he has multiple comorbids. What are we expectations? What are the expectations when you are approaching this patient? Probably he must have multiple things going on, multiple comorbids going on. There are multiple issues into it, a lot of complex health issues. So we need to deal that. Patients with multiple or complex problems. This patient have maybe asthma, ischemic heart disease, he doesn't understand, or the prognosis is not very good, things like that. The challenge is the time. You need to manage asthma, you also need to manage ischemic heart disease, you also need to manage drug resistance, you also need to manage infection and things like that. The list is very long. The patient has, you come across the patient who has bit of everything. If when you start to do your history taking, there you say that, you ask, do you have shortness of breath? He says yes. Do you ask, Do you have urinary problems? He says yes. When you ask, do you have stomach problems? He says yes. When you ask, you have chest pains? He says yes, maybe sometimes. So there is always a yes to everything. So it's going to be very challenging for you guys in order to prioritize why is he here for? Is he here for the shortness of breath, or we are going to ischemic heart problems? So time is a problem, and lack of experience obviously is the key to everything. The more you see the patient, the more you will realize that okay, this patient is of that category, and you need to tailor your consultation according to that. What you should do, you should reassure the patient that okay, we will take care of all of your problems, but maybe in a different way, maybe not in this consultation. In this consultation I need to be clinical, I need to clinically judge which the symptoms requires most of your attention. So you need to prioritize that on the basis of your clinical judgment. Documentation is also very important, that okay, I come across that he has this 5-6 problems. Now I'm at this consultation I will be attending these 2 problems because they are more critical, and the later problems we can do it in a later visits. Multiple appointments, you can do multiple appointments to get these things along. And what not to do, do not ignore the patient, and do not get frustrated. So that's very important. And just a minute. Okay, now patients with the multiple problems. Now we go on to this. What do you see this? This patient is what? How do you look like this patient? Is he a happy patient? How do you?
Irritable.
Irritable. Irritable and
Unstable.
emotionally unstable. Okay, aggressive. All right. Okay, the patients with personality disorders. The patient may have some anxiety problem, the patient is angry, or the patient has some obsessive compulsive disorder. The pattern is like that. Patient is very anxious, overly anxious, overly sensitive. So you detect that the patient has some personality issues. So the communication issues are there. Consent is a problem. Patient becomes unpredictable, and obviously the safety is also a challenge. What to do? You should stay very calm. Involve a psychiatrist if it is involved, if it is required. What not to do? Do not confront the patient. So you know to be you should stay calm, and you should stay safe. These are the 2 main things in this consultation if you're dealing a patient with personality problems. Although the patient is not here for you as a physician for a personality issue, but he has some other problems going on, but he also has a comorbid of a personality thing, then it becomes challenging. The third thing is this patient, it looks like it's a misjudged patient. So the patient has a preconceived opinion that is not based on reasons or actual experiences. Some patient thinks that, okay, doctor, I think that I am having, and I'm dying because of I don't know which problem, but it seems like that I am dying. So patient has this preconceived opinion that okay, doctor, I have some heart problems, although this light chest pain is not because of the heart problem, it's something else. So this is a prejudiced patient which has some preconceived opinion about it, but it is not justifiable. Patient might not agree with the treatment. Yeah, if you say that patient that okay, this is just your opinion and we don't agree as a physician, patient say that okay, the doctor doesn't know that, I think I need to change another doctor. may compromise their care. That's the reason the patient don't seek the help and may think that they know better. So the patient say that, okay, I think I know myself better rather than the doctor, because the doctor is saying that I don't have anything, although I'm having these multiple problems which are very serious. What to do? So you need to educate the patient that, okay, if you're saying that you have a malignancy, as far as we know, if the patient is malignant, he should have this, and you don't have it. What do you think? You have it or you don't have it? So you try to have involve the patient into a discussion, so that you can explore his or her thinking, and ask give the time to think, offer alternative cares, remain fair and unbiased. What not to do? Don't take it personally. And if you think that the patient is very biased in his opinion, you probably would educate them, try them to give time to think, and offer an alternative care if it is required. So you need to deal these patients like that. The other is this is a very technical patient. He is a manipulative patient. Manipulative patients are, what do you think of a manipulative patient? Can you give me an example?
Those who need like tramadol or like harm themselves just to come to the ER or whatever, just to take the medication or whatever trick just to help their needs.
Yes, the manipulative patients have some hidden agenda into it. So you think that, okay, have what hidden agenda? One is that probably he needs some unnecessary medications. Number one. Number two is he needs ijaza. So he visited the doctor in order to get the leave, the sick leave, although the patient is not very sick, or he needs some insurance benefit, or he needs some other financial benefits, things like that, from the company or from the insurance company or from the doctor or from the institute, whatever. The lot of students visit the primary healthcare in order to get the sick leave on the exam day. So these are manipulative patients. The challenge is they say the right things to get what they want. Whatever they say, they know that, okay, if I say that I have headache, or I have stomach pain, or for say I have COVID, so probably the physician is bound to give me the certificate. All right. So they say the right things to get the things they want. They have a knowledge of the system, so they know that how the system works. This patient knows that how the system works, so he will pick and choose those things that will lead him to the desired outcome of the patient. So what to do? Make the team members aware that, okay, you can involve your senior, you can involve your manager, that this the patient is manipulative, and I don't see any evidence of this, what he's saying. So you need to involve your team members, involve other healthcare professionals, and negotiate with the patient. Don't just confrontate that. Confrontation is not a solution. So you need to negotiate. Don't confront the patient and don't overlook him. Don't ignore them, that okay, it's just, they are just manipulative patients, just ignore it. Okay, I don't want to give them. Try to be very vigilant that they are very sensitive and they are very dangerous. They can be very dangerous to you as a physician. So you need to be aware how to deal those patients. Because they know the symptoms, they know the system, they know the symptoms, and they know how to manipulate and change the situation. So for you as a physician, you make your team aware of these problems, and you can involve the other healthcare professionals. And then there is aggression. Aggressive patients have low inhibitions, low levels of consciousness, and difficult to treat because they're very aggressive. They don't listen to you. They don't give you time. So you need to be very vigilant on these. Okay, this patient is very aggressive. So what you do, you should follow the protocol. There is a protocol in each institution. We call it as zero tolerance. If you think that the patient has zero tolerance, you immediately involve the other healthcare professional, number one. Number two, immediately involve the security and safety and securities. What is the protocol? How should we go about it? So you need to involve and follow the protocols in order for your safety. What not to do? Don't miss the potential injuries. So you don't say, and don't judge them. You don't need to judge them that, okay, you are being very aggressive, you're being very rude, so it will become more aggressive and it will also complicate the situation. Don't miss the potential injuries, so they can actually harm you. So you need to be very careful about those situations, and things like that. The other thing is, children's, they're very special, and you need to know what to do. Non-verbal communications while you are interacting with the children, you need to be playful to them. You need to use non-verbal communications so that they don't feel threatened from you. You can use charts, pictures, toys in order to involve the children better, and also use mothers and the carers, so that the children are more comfortable, so that you can do your required task of taking the history. I'm sure that you have gone through the pediatric history taking. You are aware of these strategies, but these are things that you need to do while you are interacting a patient with pediatric patient. Don't patronize it. So don't deal each single child similarly, because every child is a unique identity. So some children are very bold, some children are very shy, some children are very irritable, some children are very shouty, some children are very excited, hyperactive. So you need to tailor your consultation according to the child's personality. And don't speak really slowly. Yani if you don't, you need to hurry up and you need to speak a little quicker, so that in a low time, in a very limited time, you can get maximum consultation. Obviously, you don't want to over burden the consultation, but you need to focus on important things. Don't use complicated languages as obvious. And then we have patients with language barriers. Patients who speak different languages. So what to do? Use qualified interpreters. Ask patients to summarize, and non-verbal communication. So you can communicate your things with the non-verbal things. What not to do? Don't use children to translate. Don't speak only to the interpreter. So you make sure that you are actually not treating the interpreter. You are actually treating the patient. So whatever is interpreter is giving you the interpretation, you will address the patient, so that the patient knows, so that patient feel that, okay, the doctor is telling me. And whenever you are telling the patient the situation, you need to use non-verbal communications, so that you can deal these patients very differently. And obviously don't underestimate them. If the patient knows the language which is not which you don't understand as a physician, it doesn't mean that the patient is less important. The patient becomes the same important as the patient of your language. So respect the patient, and give them whatever you can. Offer them some translators if available. If not, even only your non-verbal communications can also give the patient your message, and try to respect them. The other thing is the patient with difficulties. Yani the patient is deaf. Patients who have difficulties in expression. Patient is dysphagia, or the patient is deaf. So obviously you need to know whether the patient is understanding what I'm saying. You can also use non-verbal communications, and you can also take history from the relatives. What not to do? Don't rush with them, because if the patient is not hearing, so you say that, okay, I don't need to put a lot of effort, just get over with it. And don't presume the patient is dumb. The patient, if the patient is not listening, or the patient is not speaking, it doesn't mean that the patient is not apprehending. The patient is apprehending everything, he's understanding everything, but the only thing is the expression. So don't assume that the patient is dumb. Respect the patient and do whatever you can by doing non-verbal communications and by taking the history or from the relatives, and don't underestimate the patient. All right, patient with lot of family members, relatives of the patients. The sometimes the condition is not very difficult, but the relatives makes it more difficult by yani by asking non-relevant questions. Some relatives they jump in the middle of the consultation, and they make it more problematic. So challenges are different agendas, because probably every attendant has a different agenda of its own. So you don't need to meet the agenda of the relatives, but you need to meet the agenda of the patient. Multiple people presenting, family grudge, some emotional state, unrealistic expectations. These are all challenges that you come across when you are dealing with relatives of the patient. So you need to be prepared that, okay, I will choose one relative at a time and I will ask Yani as a representative. If there are 10, 15 relatives of the patient, you ask all of those relatives to make one leader and just one way communication, and he will communicate the rest of the relatives. So just make one person as a as a single identity, so that you can interact with that person, and that person is going to interact with the other relatives. Ask the patient what they want. Try to identify a point to contract. Suggest a formal separate appointment. Document conversations. Keep them informed. Nurse should be present. Keep the patient main focus of the care. Be honest and realistic. So you need to be very realistic. You need to document. So you need to lay up a plan. Obviously, don't what not to do. Don't break the patient's confidentiality. You are not required to break the confidentiality in front of the relatives. You don't make unrealistic promises to the relatives and to the patients. You don't make side talks. You are saying something to the father of the patient and the sister of the patient another thing, and so your main concern is to your patient. And if the patient says that, okay, you can, I assign this relative is a reliable me, is a reliable person, and you can contact also. So in that way, you can just involve that particular relative into your management plan. So you need to be very careful while you're dealing with the patient who has multiple relatives. Okay, there are some communication specific techniques. Our goal is, yes, our goal is improve listening and understanding. And for this, what activities can be: summarize the patient's chief concern, interrupt less, offer regular, brief summaries. So suggested phrases by if you wanted to improve your listening, or if you want that the patient should understand, what you can use is, what I hear from you is that something, or did I get that right? So you can ask the patient in order to know that your listening is good. The second thing is the partnership, is the relationship. So discuss the facts that relationship is less than ideal, offer ways to improve care. So if you think that you as a physician and the patient have not an ideal relationship, you probably would like to first of all acknowledge that, and then you can ask the patient, how can we make things better? So the suggested phrases are, how do you feel about the care you are receiving from me? Or it seems to me that we sometimes don't work together very well. So you need to, yani relation partnership from the doctor and patient, you need to realize, and you then need to find ways. The third is improve skills at expressing the negative emotions. So it's difficult for me to listen to you when you use this kind of languages. So you can be expressive, and you can offer ways to improve that. Increase empathic attitude. Seems like you're quite upset. Could you help me understand what you are going through right now? Negotiate the process. So the patient doctor relationship, it's better when you negotiate. You don't use strict plans which are not realistic to the patient. So you involve the patient into the decision making. and you negotiate with the process of care. What suggested phrases is, what's your understanding of what I am recommending, or what do you say that the how should we go about it by, and if you're talking about your sugar control and the patient's sugar is 200 or 300 or 500, and you ask them, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and no matter it is difficult or hard, you or difficult or easy, you need to do that. This is not the way. The way is that you ask the patient the way forward. What do you think is the practical suggestion for you in order to cope up that situation? So you will negotiate in these processes. So in a nutshell, you will first of all, you will recognize which kind of patient you are dealing with. The patient is manipulative, if the patient is aggressive, or a child, or a language barrier, and we have listed all the patient types. Once you know that, okay, I'm dealing with that patient, you can suggest, you can tailor your consultation skills according to that. Number third thing is that you need to aware of how are you going to um, uh, what are the things that are important in the consultation. Number one is improving listening. Number second is your partnership. Number second thing is that third thing is that if you have some negative problems, you need to express that, then increasing the empathy, and then negotiate the process. These are all techniques or all the processes that you should be aware of what is going on between you and patient, and so that you can make some plans and you can tailor your consultation. So that's about it, about the